Hi, my name is Zoe Jagger. I have a 6th dan in Okinawan Goju karate. I'm a boxer. I also do kickboxing training, but I compete in boxing. I'm a pretty good boxer, but a moderate kickboxer. I've also done freestyle wrestling for a few months. I want to learn karate. If I start now, how long is it going to take me to reach a black belt level? It depends where you start. Number one, if you start in a dojo that is insisting on every single grade and not looking at any kind of prior learning to allow you to rise faster, you may find it can take anywhere from 7 to 10 years. You may find if you join a dojo where they're going to take into account prior learning, it may be as long as it takes you to learn all the necessary kata to complete the grading. One of the fundamental differences between karate and the other martial arts you've mentioned is that assessment and grade in boxing and ranking is very different to what is expected in karate. Karate tends to focus on kata, where the other martial arts tend to focus on your ring craft and your ring ability. Have you got the skills in the ring, in the octagon, etc.? In one way, we're spending our time preserving the teachings of teachers from the past and trying to keep that going through kata and through set drills, where other martial arts are working on whether or not you can actually apply set drills. So you may find that it takes a little longer than you expect. If you're trophy hunting for belts or for ranks, you may find joining a sport dojo helps you get there, but the depth of recognition from the traditional fraternity, where it is about spending time in the dojo, and the longer your time, the more you are respected. Billy Stain, 3399, can you maybe do a clip short video to encourage older people, 40 plus, to why they can also gain from going to karate to not old or to start, and it's okay to start from white belt? Unfortunately, in my case, I started karate as a child and I have been doing it since childhood, and I'm approaching, next year I'll be 50, but I've continued my training pretty much through my entire adult life and had a 2-year sabbatical when I was finishing school. But I do think there is some important points to kind of fill in on this question. Number one, the value in doing karate for longevity is priceless. The fact that so many of the movements, the prescribed movements, are complicated, that means crossing both left and right hemispheres, as well as the top and bottom half of your body, forces the brain to kind of switch between the hemispheres in the brain. And this neuroplasticity, this learning new movements, is essential for keeping the brain young, and it helps. There's some indications in some studies to suggest that it helps stave off things like dementia and Alzheimer's type diseases which affect the brain. So in terms of doing martial art in the period from 40 plus, absolutely. Maintaining and preserving what flexibility and what strength you have is the next thing. Obviously, the more we get to the 60, 70-year-old category, one of the most important things to try and preserve is one's ability to balance and to have a certain degree of agility. And the more that dwindles, the more likely you're prone to falling. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're anywhere from 65, 70 years old and you fall and you break your femur or your hip, it's like a virtual death sentence. And the older you get, the more the doctors are going to be reluctant to want to work and operate on a break of that nature. So a couple of good reasons. Karate for longevity is one of the most important things that I've come to see and understand in the last 10 years. Viv K. Kausala Salmon, karate can be learned at any age. No, there is a restriction on age. And that restriction actually applies more to children. Karate should not be taught to children probably under the age of 5. They don't have the cognitive ability. They don't have the ability to do karate at a very, very young age. But if you bring me a 2-year-old and say, please teach my 2-year-old karate, I'm showing you the exit. Minimum age in my dojo is 5, and the ideal age, in my opinion, is about 8 to start karate. for long-term training. I know there are people out there going to say to me, Tiger Woods started hitting golf balls at 3. He's a freak. Hitting golf balls at 3. He's a freak. It's not normal. I have 2 sons. They are allowed in the dojo. They are not allowed to do karate seriously in my dojo. My eldest son has moved to another dojo to start karate at age 6. Okay, so we put it off as long as possible. But I do allow my children to roll and wrestle naturally in the confines of our living room. Jack McMorn. All very true. Next video needed would be how to tell another person that at the dojo to please finally wash his gi. No, you're 100% right. In Miyazato Sensei's last interview, and he spoke about wearing black gi. I'm wearing black gi pants at the moment. Miyazato Sensei frowned upon the idea of wearing black or colored gi for one simple reason. He said it was dirty. In a nutshell, dirty. The reason people wear these is to conceal the dirt, which means that you're not going and washing and taking time to meticulously clean your karate suit. Anybody who just hangs their karate suit up and then week in and week out is not taking their karate suit home to have it cleaned, it's a problem. I would say at best, if you're doing 2 sessions in a suit, and during that time frame where it is hanging up, drying out, being reused after that second time, you should be taking it home and washing it. If not, you're a pig. There's no other way to put it. So if you ever wanted to kind of be more accepted in places like Japan and Okinawa, please bathe a little bit more frequently, bathe without strong smelling soaps, etc., and wash your karate suit to get rid of the smells in your karate suit, because not only does it stink, if it stinks, it means it's full of other stuff, and that's unhealthy because nobody wants a staph infection. I like to wash my gi in as neutral soap as possible. I use a machine to wash my gis. I don't wash them by hand. And over the course of many years, I've realized that I have a particular problem. I'm allergic to soap, believe it or not. I cannot handle about 90% of the washing powders that are available. The next problem is that most people use too much soap when they wash their karate suit, and that's why they start to develop irritated skin from their gi when they sweat, and that soap, that residue soap that's in the gi, gets onto the skin and starts irritating, and it creates sores, especially on joints of the body or high abrasion areas. So what I would suggest is a moderate soap, a neutral soap, not too strong in its smell, but good enough to clear the smell out of your gi. If you are allergic to soap like I am, and you're struggling, then half the amount of detergent. Wash your gi separately from other items that might require a higher degree of detergent, and then double rinse it. That way you get rid of the excess soap in the gi, and that helps keep your gi nice and clean. I do prefer to hang my karate suit up and to dry it turned inside out so that the sun doesn't bleach it too badly. Typically what happens where I live in the middle of South Africa at altitude, if you hang your karate suit out, our sunlight tends to turn most white materials either gray or a funny yellow color. It doesn't matter what the detergent is that you're using and what process you're using, it tends to alter the color of our suits. We're also exposed, we live in a semi-desert. We're exposed to a lot of dust, so the dust does build up in the karate suit if it's hanging out and it's a particularly dry season. So you may find that the karate suit doesn't keep its beautiful white color. But excessive jicking or bleaching of your karate suit will result in the fabric getting a little bit brittle over time and eventually tearing. Sensei, are there no Dan stripes on Goju belts? This is from Abdul. No, it depends on the school. In the school I come from, there is no marking. Once you're a black belt, you're a black belt. If people need to know who is what grade, then they generally ask. But most of the time, what will happen in terms of our dojo kun is the first line is be humble and polite. So if there is a ranked lineup, you will find that everybody steps back, and then somebody who is arranging the lineup will go, all right, 8 stands, please come stand here. 7 stands, please come stand here. 6 stands, and so on and so forth. We're generally not wearing stripes on our belt, and that is to remove the ego attached to that. The only thing is to know who is the big sensei in the dojo, because that is the sensei that everybody is taking their lead from. And that is important as well. So hopefully that helps. Soldier Drew. What about title supreme grandmaster Tuhan? There's an internet famous Filipino man who calls himself Supremo Grandmaster Tuhan while dressing up in paramilitary garb. Titles in karate are a contentious issue for some people because maybe they just don't know how the titles work. And secondly, they're egotistical, to put it in a nutshell. So it is not uncommon for somebody to be given a title, and the titles come at a certain amount of age, certain number of years of training, and a certain degree of skill or proficiency. And it should be an award. It shouldn't be an extra validation. It is not something that you should be paying for. If somebody's paying for a title or is paying for a belt which comes with the title, there is a problem. The title is an honorific, and it is meant to be an honorific in this day and age. Before the Dan grading system existed, titles were the things that denoted whether or not you were capable or not capable of being a good instructor, a good martial artist. And our root for a lot of the titles is the Dainippon Butoko Kai, and I would say pre-1945, in other words, pre-end of World War II, because the titles issued then were very much the titles that were an acknowledgement of your ability, because most martial arts had not adopted a Dan grading system. The metric Dan grading system that exists is meant to replace this, and it's meant to give people an easy way to understand where do you fit in. Hi, my name is Zoe Jagger. I have a 6th Dan in Okinawan Goju karate. This is my ranking in terms of this. My certificate comes from this federation, and as such, you can then go and fact check what I've got, and you can see whether or not it is legit or not. There are a lot of people out there with 20 10th Dan grades in a plethora of martial arts, and they are bad people. We should be calling them out and making them look ridiculous for what they are. All right, so by all means, Supremo Grandmaster Tuhan, dressed in his paramilitary gear in the Philippines. I'm sure he's got a sense of badass about him because he's maybe Filipino, but he might just be somebody who's swindling everybody out their money. All right, design boost. And I also wanted to ask if you think karate could help building up your self-esteem. All right, the most important thing that karate is designed to work around, especially when working with children, is self-confidence and self-esteem. Simply the process of learning, acquiring a skill, stringing a whole bunch of these skills together, and then performing these skills in front of your peer groups or in front of people in general at maybe a tournament or at a grading, is an exercise in building one's self-esteem and self-confidence. It bugs me when people try and bypass this process. A lot of parents out there, and I'm talking to you now, every time you decide it's too much pressure for my darling child to not experience, you're doing your child a disservice. What you really want to do is you want to make sure that the testing is happening frequently in the dojo, and it's a good reason for testing, is to help build their self-esteem. The dojo having a little in-house tournament is an essential cog in building self-esteem. We're not talking about being on a world stage with 50,000 people standing and looking at every last movement and clapping and applauding, but just the process of somebody standing up and doing something on their own. It's the exact same reason why children need to learn to recite poetry and to read aloud at school. It is not to undermine them, but it is slowly and systematically to give corrections and to make them more capable of handling the stress. Okay, I have a horrible game I play. It's called the name game. I butcher everybody's name in my dojo on purpose, and I get them to scream their name at me. It is the process of them standing their ground and saying, "That's not my name. My name is James, not Slane." And then all of a sudden, you're building their confidence to stand up and hold their ground. It's a confidence exercise. I have a lot of parents who are worried about this game because I butcher their children's names. I generally just show them my name and I go, "Please tell me what my name is." My parents were horrible to me by giving me a weird, complicated name unless you are Argentinian. Okay, and then they told me not to enunciate it like it is meant to be Che, and it became Shay. And my whole life, everybody has just gotten it wrong. I really don't care about it anymore. And in the dojo, I was known as Jagger or Jags for most of my childhood. It was easier for Sensei, he couldn't mess it up. Okay, let's move on. Who's here after Cobra Kai? I've been watching Cobra Kai. There are moments where I need a bucket when they do kata because I barf in my mouth. I want to vomit in my mouth sometimes when I watch kata. Couldn't they have gotten somebody to at least improve the kata? Daniel LaRusso's kata was way better in Karate Kid 2 than it is now. Seriously, it's horrendous. That's typically what happens when you don't train. All right, and you don't have Fumio Demura Sensei grinding you to make sure that you do karate correctly. Yeah, hopefully we've answered a whole bunch of questions for a whole bunch of you, and hopefully this leads to more questions, because more questions allows us to find more answers and to expose more truth to our system. Thank you very much. Arigato gozaimasu, and we'll see you on the next one. Sayonara.